I've been sitting on some of this for over a year, and I don't know why I haven't shared it, because this is hilarious. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Gitty Mary, and usually I make content about sustainability and how you as a consumer as well as a business can lower your impact. And that is the primary focus on my platform, but once in a while I just have to show you guys my email inbox, because I get brand collaboration proposals from brands that have nothing to do with sustainability whatsoever. I also sometimes run into communication issues with brands I'm working with or talking to. There's so much to be said about being a content creator and an influencer and the way people talk to you and the emails that you get. And sometimes it just feels so wild that this is my job. Anyway, I have a folder. This is gonna annoy me all day. Anyway, I have a folder in my inbox on my email, and it's just called haha LOL, where I put things into it whenever I feel like, okay, I want to talk about this at some point because this is hilarious. And I think this is the third installment of the series where I show you shady brand deals that I've been offered. Let's just get started. So the first thing that pops up in this folder on my inbox is a lovely email from none other than Prime Energy Drink. And usually I try to stay away from naming the brands that have reached out to me, especially if we have had communication. But I feel like I can say this because but I don't think there's any harm in saying that I got an email from Prime Energy Drink asking me if I wanted to become a Prime Energy ambassador, and in return they would send me a couple of boxes of Prime Energy Drink. I screenshot that email right away and sent it to my friends going, I have officially peaked. She is officially an influencer now. Go watch me throw away almost 10 years of work to be a Prime Energy ambassador. That would be the funniest, most unhinged left hook. Often you get emails that's just copy pasted and sent to a million different people. They don't really alter the message to fit a specific influencer or content creator. They just send the same email out to everybody. And I guess that's what's happening here. I don't know which PR list I'm on currently that makes this possible. That email went into my haha. If anyone should be in doubt as to why, look at who owns the business. I don't think we align very well. Then there's just the sheer notion of selling caffeinated energy drinks to a young audience, which I think is deeply unethical. Now, we have Prime in Denmark. When it was first introduced in the EU, it had so much caffeine in it that it was illegal in the EU, or at least in many EU countries. So the version we have in Denmark has no caffeine in it whatsoever, because that was the only way they were able to sell it to children. It's still, in my opinion, deeply unethical to exploit your primarily or predominantly young audience to sell them sugary energy drinks. I think that is the front yard of hell. So then, and I don't even have a paper trail for this, but I had a meeting yesterday that I've been dying to tell you about. So I met up with a traveling agency. I'm not gonna name which one. It was a traveling agency where one of their main products is the opportunity to travel with your favorite influencer. Overall, sounds like a cool idea if that's something you're into. I didn't really know there was a market for this, but you know, I can learn things too. And I was honestly kind of open to the idea if you could do like a plant-based retreat somewhere that didn't require plane travel, somewhere in Europe accessible with the train. And like if you guys wanted to meet up and hang out for a week, that could be really fun. Overall, that kind of idea I really liked during the meeting. I asked about sustainability and ethical practices and sort of what they were doing, if this is something that they selectively did once in a while, or is it something that's visible throughout their entire business model. I specifically asked about their trips to Thailand and Costa Rica, if there were any sort of unethical activities you could partake in as a tourist, like tiger petting, elephant riding, that kind of stuff. The person I talked to kept referring to their website and highlighted stuff on their website saying that they don't tolerate discrimination, that they don't tolerate harmful activities towards animals, and it was a lot of fluff. And that's very different from, you know, having a strict policy that says you cannot participate in these activities, or we will not be the platform where we connect you to these activities. I don't know. It was just very, Then I asked them, how will I be paid for working with you guys? Because I don't work for free. I have to pay rent, I have to pay for food, I have to pay for utilities. And mind you, there are many other jobs that are much more difficult than what I'm doing. Absolutely 100% for fucking sure. However, I still need to be compensated for my work. And he was pretty taken back by that, sort of, well, you don't have to pay anything for the trips. Like, yeah, I know I don't have to pay. I'm advertising. He tells me that I have to set my own price, and then my payment has to come from the people that are booking the trip with me. So my subscribers, so you guys, my community. So for instance, we were looking at a $3,000 trip around Germany. Then I would sell it to you guys for $4,000. I just had to stop him for a little while. I just had to say, that I would never do. It feels exploitive and deeply unethical that you pay $1,000, not for a trip, but for me to simply be there. And that's going to be my only payment, is the payment I get from you guys. It was very much giving the American tipping culture mentality, where the pay actually comes from. It doesn't come from the company. It comes from consumers. It was just very, I didn't like it. I expressed in the most respectful way possible that I, to be quite frank, can't do this and feel good about it. A $4,000 trip around Germany is a lot of money. I don't have that kind of money for a vacation, and I wouldn't expect anyone to pay that kind of money for me to be there. And then he countered with, you also don't have to charge them anything extra additional to the trip. You can also just go for free yourself. Now we're back to me just advertising for you guys for free then. It was just, Therefore, I assume this is something that's done by multiple companies. I don't think this is a single company idea, and I would encourage you to be very skeptical about the pricing. Chances are there is a markup on the trip so that the influencer can get paid to be there. And mind you, I definitely think anyone advertising for any company should get paid for it. I just don't think that is the way to do it. I literally had to call my friends and ask them, am I being crazy? Am I being sensitive? Am I being dramatic? All these kinds of things that you typically think about yourself, especially so if you're a woman and you're having a reaction where you have to draw a line and like respect your own boundaries and limits. Those kinds of feelings, if you know, you know. But all my friends had the same reaction, just like, what? I'm sorry, I love you, but I'm just not gonna pay $1,000 for you to be on my vacation. And like, 100% accurate. Just let it be known, I would not expect anyone to pay $1,000 for me to ruin their vacation. Okay, we're moving on, because the next one, I can actually just keep this vibe going, because I got an email from Temu. It's like they don't know me. It's because they don't. I am on some crazy PR list where people are just reaching out to whoever has a pulse and an Instagram account. And that's what's happening. I just still think this is incredibly funny. So I haven't done a video on Temu especially. And if you want one, let me know in the comments down below. We can absolutely do that. I did a video on Shein and all the same thing applies. It's a shit company. If you've ever heard any of my criticisms about Wish, that also applies to Temu. If you've ever heard any of my criticisms about Shein, that also applies to Temu. But there's just like this extra grossness layer where they spent, I don't know, $7,000 or $14,000 in a Super Bowl ad to get people to shop like a billionaire, which is their slogan. And then everything you can buy on their site is like extremely cheap because it's made with slave labor. In countries and regions where people working in these factories have absolutely zero agency and zero rights. Also, the amount of times I've criticized just the sheer existence of billionaires. Anyway, thank you so much for the opportunity, Temu, but I will be disrespectfully declining. Last year, this is gonna be like a little bit of a story time vibe, but I'm also not gonna be too specific because I am sort of afraid. So excuse my vagueness, it's simply because I'm trying to legally sort of guard myself in case of any bullshit, because I would not be surprised if they tried to pull anything. So last year I did some educational environmental campaigns, and they had outsourced this campaign and everything related to this campaign to an external marketing agency. And these were the people I talked to. But I specifically didn't want to work with this marketing agency ever the fuck again. I think the easiest way to do this is simply just to let you hear the emails that we've written back and forth to each other. Basically, the thing is, I did phase 1 out of 3 phases, and after phase 1, there was radio silence for a while, a couple of months go by, and then they sent me a new contract for phase 2. The email had this very weird vibe. It was like all exclamation marks, all really hectic, all like read it now and send it back to us right the fuck now. The vibe was so weird, and it was a very long contract. Now, often, and this is not only this specific marketing agency, it's many marketing agencies and many people working within this influencer content creator sphere. They don't want you to read contracts. They are also not reading contracts. I have read through so many contracts where there were these big, like, glaring mistakes that really just screamed that they were just copy pasting the same contract onto everybody, and they didn't even read it. And there's so many ways, if you don't read these contracts, that you can get royally fucked by these companies, because suddenly you're signing off your rights to all your content. It has happened before, it will definitely happen again, so read your fucking contract. Which is also why that when someone says, read this contract and send it back to us, like before March, and it was February 27th, I replied back to them, thank you so much for sending over the contract. However, I will need more than 1 day to do this, because I have to send it by my legal team, and like all that stuff has to be in order, so I know what I'm actually signing. And during the first part of this collaboration, like, the end result was great, but the vibe with the person I was communicating with at the marketing agency was very frustrating. And you can absolutely read rudeness into text where it wasn't intended to be there. But there was just this sheer lack of respect for my time. Often whenever you post something for a collaboration, the brand or like the partner wants to review it and okay it before it goes out, which is completely fair. I send it in, they give me a thumbs up, I post it. 13 hours later, this was in Instagram stories, so it was only supposed to be up for 24 hours. 13 hours later, they email me again. Urgent, 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 exclamation marks. And they wanted me to take it down and do it all over again. This was deeply frustrating because it has already been up and it was okay. There was a lot of this going back and forth where the communication just wasn't great. I came to the conclusion that considering the pay that I got and the amount of stress and work related to it, it simply wasn't worth it for me. I ended up not signing the contract for the second phase, and instead I wrote them this email. I'm letting you know that after careful consideration, I will not be signing the contract and moving on with phase 2 with you guys. It saddens me because the topic is important and I would love to talk about it further. However, the communication during this collaboration has not been ideal for me. If you're looking for feedback, here are the factors that affected my decision. The communication between you and the client seemed strained and unaligned, which left me confused and unsure of how to proceed with my work. I felt like I had to apologize for replying to emails from the client, although I didn't know that that wasn't supposed to happen, and I felt caught in the middle of some internal conflict issue. The client, the bigger, had emailed me continuously throughout this collaboration, and when I talked to the marketing agency, they were angry at me for replying to emails directly from the client because the client wasn't supposed to contact me directly. But when they contacted me and then they asked me questions about everything, of course I replied. So I said, well, could you please fix this within your own company? This has nothing to do with me, and I don't know why you're angry at me for replying to the client. It's just, that's very frustrating and really, really stressful. After sending my content for final approval and getting that approved, I was asked to add more elements after posting, so I had to take my content down and upload it again, which could have been avoided by adding the feedback during the approval phase. The tone of our communication has been accusing and very unpleasant. Meanwhile, I've gotten deadlines with 2 to 3 days notice, which isn't realistic for creating content nor reading through contracts. I was in doubt whether or not I should give this feedback whatsoever or simply just pull away. And in hindsight, I should probably just have pulled away. But in this situation, I just really wanted them to know what went wrong between us and why I was pulling away from the collaboration, so they could use that for internal feedback if they wanted to. But boy, do I regret writing this email now. Here's the reply that I got. I'm quite surprised by your decision to not go ahead with this activity, because it's the first feedback that I receive with these details. For me, it was surprising to discover that you had contacts with the client and also are working with them on other activities. I don't know why that was their business. If this was an issue, this was also something they should have fixed internally and not dragged me into. Anyway, we have already confirmed your participation on phase 2, so it would not be professional also for you to say that you won't proceed. Also for the relationship you're having with the client. Me and the client are fine, by the way. We have to continue this collaboration because it's an important client. I think that you know this, and also because your name was suggested from them. Now, I didn't sign shit, so I actually don't have to do any of the sort whatsoever. And if I was an important participant in this campaign, why did you treat me like this? Now, there are many times during this going back and forth where I should simply just have stopped replying. That time is not now. So I continue. As far as I'm aware, I'm not obligated to partake in any further collaborations as I have not signed the contract. I agree that the topic is important. However, I have found myself unable to work under these conditions and with the tone set in our communication. If the client wishes to reach out to me and work with me under different circumstances, I would be happy to take up the collaboration again. At this point, I'm actually having a scream fight with someone working in a marketing agency. And it's comical, but last year, when all of this was playing out, this was so stressful. This was the reason why I didn't want to open up my inbox, because I just never knew what would happen in there. During the first phase, the amount of emails I got that was accusive and just rude and demanded a lot of work really fast from me, and it was all very like, why the fuck are you like this? They were angry that I didn't sign the contract. But it's kind of over, right? Any news regarding my last email? This is during Easter, by the way, so I am off work, and I specifically take an entire week where I don't answer any email. Get another email. Let me know, please. And again, any chance you will reply to my email, it would be nice. I have to come back with an official email to the client. Please let me know. So I think the decent thing here to do is to reply again. Sorry for the late reply with Easter vacation and a busy book script due in 10 days. I've been really busy. I have considered it, but I'm going to stick with my decision to step back from the collaboration. And that's it. Also, the next phase, this was in March, and the next phase would due in August. They had plenty of time to find another creator that wanted to work with them. It wasn't a time crunchy situation at all. This sounds very sad, and I think the client won't be happy at all. We now have a problem that we have to solve, and this won't be simple for us, just because it was a request from the client to work with you, and we're managing this campaign specifically. Once again, there's plenty of time to find another candidate. And I can't share this next bit because it contains some names that I really don't want to share on the screen. But then they basically go on to say that they do have a confirmation for phase 2 on my side, because I started by writing in the email when they wanted to send me the contract that let's go for phase 2, send me the contract, something like that. And then I get the contract, and then I decide to step back from it. I also talked with my legal team about all of this, and they said this was absolutely legal to do and absolutely fine. So they're sort of implying that because I sent them an email saying that I wanted the contract and continued, that was as legally binding as the contract itself. That's not true. And at this point, I have pretty much had it. I would ask for you to respect my decision going forward. I have found the communication between us unproductive and hostile, which is what has led to me stepping back from this collaboration. The final decision was made after you sent the contract and demanded that I gained an overview in less than 2 days. But feel free to bring the list of reasons I listed in my first email to the client if they have any questions. Otherwise, they're welcome to reach out to me themselves. I withdrew my confirmation for phase 2, and as I didn't sign the contract, I'm not legally required to continue the work, so regardless of that confirmation, I'm stepping back. As a final installment, I get this message. You're continuing to tell us that you found our communication hostile, and this sounds weird. Nobody wanted you to feel uncomfortable, and again, this is the first time I'm managing a situation like this, to be honest. I just followed up with an email. It was not urgent, it's just a workflow. Anyway, it's okay for us to respect your decision, but on our side, it's not professional at all. Now, what I want to get at here is that there are so many people within this business, within the influencer, marketing, content creator business, that will gaslight you, be hostile towards you, and threaten you with unprofessionalism if you set any kind of boundary or if you refuse to do something. And this is of course not exclusive to this business specifically, but what I tend to see is that you get a lot of, well, I've worked with many people before, well, I've never heard about this before. All of this that sort of leads up to, then it must be you that's wrong. And I've heard from people in this industry as well that it's not uncommon for the marketing agencies to sort of gaslight you and let you know respectfully that they will communicate your unwillingness to work to other people in the industry. You're very much caught in a situation where you just have to take the shit and accept the hand you're being dealt and not set any kind of boundary for yourself. And I think that's bullshit. And I think that's bullshit in any work. I think that's bullshit in any industry, in any field. I take my work incredibly seriously, but what I've learned is that I also have to take myself seriously. And I also have to set boundaries also within work. And I recommend everyone does this. It doesn't mean that you have to quit every time something is hard or unpleasant or you're working with someone that's kind of a bother, because I have done that since and I will continue to do that going forward. Sometimes you're just not vibing with people, but you can get through it. But the amount of stress I experienced every time I opened up my email email because I never knew if this meant that I had to redo something I'd already done. A kind of weird accusatory vibe towards me when I didn't really feel like I was doing anything wrong. Anyway, I just decided that I'm going to respect my own boundaries and my own mental health and only work with projects that I am excited about and that I continue to be excited about. And so many content creators and influencers are too scared to say something to these marketing agencies. And I also kind of debated with myself whether or not I should let her know that maybe the reason why you haven't gotten this feedback is because people are so scared to speak up, because look at how you're reacting. Look at how you're talking to me. Because look at this vibe. This also ended up in the haha LOL folder, and the overall client I have worked with several times since then outside of this marketing agency. It's the first time I've had this kind of situation, and honestly I just thought it was unreal. I also went over this with so many of my friends and also professional colleagues, just sort of to be validated in my experience here. It's not just me that's sensitive, or perhaps I took something the wrong way, I misunderstood something. You will gaslight yourself for ages and ages. It's very hard for me to just accept that some people are just this unpleasant, and that might very well work for other people, and other people might be able to see through it or ignore it or whatsoever, but I don't have to. I am self-employed. I don't have to. I don't actually have to do anything. And I am in that incredibly privileged position where I choose all my own partners, so I decide to not take that kind of bullshit. I would have taken that 100% when I was younger. I would just have dealt with it, stuck it out, but I don't have to. And also I think I made a joke with one of my friends or one of my legal team going that if they had paid me more money, perhaps I would be more willing to deal with bullshit, to deal with the unpredictability of their workflow, to deal with having to read through things really quickly. But we're talking a third of my rent for 1 month. Simply not worth it. Anyway, there was shady brand deals I've been offered, and just a little bit of a glimpse into what it can look like sometimes when a content creator sets her boundaries. And I hope this inspired some sort of conversation about how we set our boundaries and how it's okay to do that in a professional setting, and how setting your boundaries, respecting your boundaries and respecting your mental health does not make you unprofessional. And take really good care of yourselves. Until next time, bye. Thank you so much for watching this video, and also a special thank you to my Patreon supporters. You guys help me create green, zero-waste content, and I love you guys. You can find the links to my social media accounts down below and the link to my Patreon on this screen. Bye!